Hey, Summerhill Cinema 700 here with my first video since this whole coronavirus thing has taken uh, the world by storm. So I hope that everyone's doing good and taking care of yourself, staying healthy, and want to try not to talk about it too much because I know it's all over the news and everything, and it's very negative and stuff like that. So, but I hope everyone's staying healthy and doing well. So, cheers to all of you. We're going to do a review today on the 1985 film by Larry Cohen, The Stuff. I haven't watched this movie in quite a while, so it's nice to revisit it. I watched it yesterday, and I don't have it on Blu-ray or DVD. I watched it on Tubi TV. If you're not familiar with Tubi TV, it's Tubi, I believe, and they have tons of like horror films and Italian movies and exploitation films and stuff like that, like a Basket Case Brain Images. I can go on and on. They have a ton of great films. I didn't even know it existed till recently, and it's completely free. You just sign up, and basically they run ads throughout the videos, so you can just watch, but there are some ads. But who cares? It's just like watching a movie on TV with commercials, so it's great. So anyways, watch this stuff on Tubi TV. I'll try not to do too much of a beat by beat, but I got some notes here to keep me on track. So yeah, like I said, I haven't watched this in a while. It's a very fun movie. Basically, at the very start of this film, we see this old man. A couple of these old guys are walking around what looks like some like factory, and there's like it looks like there's snow all over the ground. But the guy starts eating it and tasting it, and he's like, "This ain't snow. This is some damn tasty stuff." And he's like, "We should start selling this stuff." And then basically shortly after that, we skip and we skip to another scene where we see this kid in his house. He's up in the middle of the night to get a snack. He goes down to the fridge, opens up the fridge, and there is the first scene that we see of the stuff in this little jar, kind of like a yogurt cup or like a ice cream tub, and it's moving around. And he freaks out and he's like, "What the hell?" The dad comes downstairs. He's like, "What are you doing up this late at night?" The kid's like, "Did you not see that? It was moving." The dad just like tastes some and he's like, "Yeah, it's fine." Um, After that, we see like this boat. We fast forward to another scene where we see this boat, and there's all these guys on the boat, like these corporate business people talking about like the business of like the ice cream treats and yogurt and whatnot, stuff like that. And they're just trying talking all of this marketing shit they're talking about. And then we finally meet our main character in the film, who is we'll just call him Mo. I think his name in the movie was David Mo. He's like, "My name's David Mo because I always get Mo money." He's using these silly catchphrases. But anyways, the guy who plays him in the movie, I believe his name is Michael Moriarty or something like that. He was also in Q the Winged Serpent. He might have been in another Larry Cohen film, but he's in Q the Winged Serpent. He was the main character in that film as well. So. Anyways, they're just talking business and whatnot and stuff like that, and he's just kind of like asking things about like what's in the product and whatnot. They're not really clarifying that with him what's in it. We skip back to the house where the young kid is, and we see that so he has an older brother, and the older brother, the mom and the dad are all eating the stuff constantly. The younger kid warns them, "You shouldn't eat it. It's not good for you. It's alive. I saw it moving," and they just kind of shake him off, and they're like, "Yeah, right." Um, and then we see the we'll just call him Mo. His character, he goes to this place where they're like doing like marketing and advertising for the product, and he sees that he meets this woman who he likes, and he asks her out on a date and whatnot, all that mumbo jumbo. Shortly after we see that, we see the young kid again, and he goes into a supermarket, and he basically just destroys all the stuff in the store. He starts knocking the tubs off the shelves, smashing stuff around, and gets in big trouble with his parents for that one. Uh, we see, let me see where I am here. Mo, he goes to the house. Let me see what I got here. Okay, so our Mo character visits another guy who's kind of a corporate guy. He's up. I don't know if he's like a merchandiser or whatnot. He goes to his house, and he's got like this massive dog there, and he's like asking about, what's in it, like what do you put in this stuff? And the guy's like, "It's fine. It's very healthy. Even the dog eats it." And it's like this really big. I think it's like a Doberman or something like that. And he's like, "Even the dog eats it." And we see a scene where I think Mo, he takes the guy goes upstairs to get him some papers, and he goes into the kitchen to get like the dog a treat. So Mo takes the guy's dog to get a treat. He opens up the cabinet, and all there is like jars of the stuff. And then shortly after that, we just see some kind of cool scenes of like showing different like billboards and advertisements, and we see like this. It's like an ice cream parlor, but it's the stuff parlor, and It's kind of just cool. Anyways, we go back to the house with this one corporate guy, and the dog starts acting really freaky, and the dog actually ends up. So Mo leaves the house, and then the guy's dog attacks him, and it's like this really creepy like practical effect where the dog's like mouth is opening up super wide, and all this white stuff's coming out. We basically presume that he kills his owner. I don't think they show it on screen. Shortly after that, Mo's character, he drives into this small little town, and it's kind of been abandoned. He's kind of wondering what the heck is going on. And he goes into this gas station, and there's like nobody around. And then he meets this guy, and he's like, it's this black dude, and he's like, his name's Chocolate Chip Charlie. And I guess this Mo character knows him from somewhere. I can't remember exactly if they explained that. But anyways, this guy named Chocolate Chip Charlie, all of a sudden he shows up. And they're walking around in the town together, and they're like, what is going on? Everyone's leaving. Everyone's gone like down south or something. And they go into this convenience store. The convenience store guy's like, everybody left the town, so something weird's going on here. And then the guy who owns the convenience store, he runs off. And he goes, and they're like, what the hell's going on here? They follow him out to where he ran off to, and they find him there. And his mouth is super wide. And as we see him sitting there, we see this big blob of the stuff like jump out the window, kind of like the blob. It's moving around. So it takes off out the window, this giant thing of the stuff. And this guy's like got it spewing out of his mouth. It's really good practical effects. And then they're like, we better get out of here. So they run off. They end up getting chased by this group of like crazy freaks that I guess have eaten too much of the stuff. And just by the chance, there's a freaking boat right there and a river. So they get in the boat and they take off. And they end up in another town. And now they're in a bar. And they're having a couple drinks or whatever. And Mo says he needs to take off on his own, basically go to Washington, D.C., and that the Chocolate Chip Charlie needs to contact the FBI or something like that. When he gets to D.C., Mo, he's just walking around the streets, and this truck, the stuff truck, like a merchandising truck or whatever, or a product truck, almost hits him. We see this lady, and she's like handing out ice cream cones or whatever the fuck you want to say, of the stuff to people, and then she's like, all right, let's do it. And all of a sudden, this stuff truck tries to run him over, and he's like, what the hell? But it misses him, thankfully. And then he meets with another corporate asshole. I think this guy's like another distributor or something, or a merchandiser or a branding, who knows, some asshole. And he's like, we know something's going on with this stuff. What did you put in this product? And he doesn't really tell him either. He ends up seeing an article in the newspaper about the kid who trashed the store, and he's like, I gotta meet this kid. So now after that scene, we flash back to the kid's house. We see the kid, and he's in his house, and he goes downstairs, and again, his mom, dad, and his brother are down there eating the stuff, and this time they're eating it for dinner. He's like, is that all you're having for dinner? And they're like, yes, honey, we've decided to eat it and live a very healthy lifestyle. We're eating this stuff because it's full of nutrients, and it's the only thing you need. Eat it, eat it. And they're like forcing him to eat it. And basically what ends up happening is they're like, here, you eat this, and then you can be a part of our family again, because he's grounded because he trashed the store and stuff like that. So basically what he does, they give him a cup of it, and they say, don't stay in your room until you finish this bowl of the stuff. And he's like, okay. And anyways, he goes up to his room, dumps it down the toilet, and it's like moving around in the toilet and stuff. And he ends up filling it up with shaving cream, and then he goes downstairs, and he's like, guys, you were right. This really is good. And he starts eating it. But of course, it's shaving cream, so it upsets his stomach, and he runs outside. And then the dad tastes a little bit of it, and I guess he's like, oh, this ain't the stuff. And then they chase him off. The kid ends up running down the road. And who shows up but Mo, and he's driving in his car just at the right moment. And the kid gets in the car, they take off, and the parents and the other brother are chasing him down the road. They end up getting on a plane, and basically they fly down to Georgia, which is the place where all these people have taken off to find out what the hell is going on here. So they end up down in Georgia, where the factory is that produces the stuff. Kids waiting in the plane as they go in, and the plane starts filling up with the stuff. And all the scenes where the stuff's coming in, like the windows are spewing through like cracks and stuff, are really well done. Anyways, so while they're in there, the kid sneaks into the factory because he escapes out of the plane because it's filling up with the stuff. And he ends up climbing up onto this tanker truck because there's all these people around. He doesn't want them to see him. And he ends up climbing inside the tank of the tanker truck, and he's hiding in there. one of the workers at the factory ends up coming up and closing the lid. So now he's stuck in this tanker. So Mo and the girl who I mentioned who he took out on a date, they're now it's his girlfriend. So she came along with him on the trip. And they end up getting the people who run the factory set them up in a hotel for the night. They're like, we got a hotel for you. It's going to work out fine. So they set them up in this hotel for the night after they had taken a little tour of the factory. And basically while they're sleeping in it, all of a sudden the stuff starts coming out of the pillow that he's sleeping on. And it wraps around his face. It's a really great effect. And he falls on the ground and he's like freaking out. He can't breathe. And his girlfriend ends up lighting his face on fire. So he... like, oh my God, she takes, I don't know, a match or something, lights his face on fire, and the stuff eventually flings off into the air, and then all of a sudden this freaking freak comes through the door, and he's attacking them. So we figure that obviously this was a setup. They set them up in this hotel purposely for the stuff to kill them. And anyways, the stuff ends up wrapping that guy up and sticking him to the wall, and it's a great effect. He's like right at the top of the ceiling, and the stuff's like wrapping him up and like cutting off his circulation, and it's a pretty great effect. And anyways, they end up lighting that on fire and whatnot. And then we see the truck that the kid is stuck in, and it takes off. So we're like, uh-oh, where's it going? And shortly after that, Mo and his girlfriend, of course, they get the fuck out of Dodge, out of that hotel, and they go down to the testing grounds. They follow these trucks or whatever. They find these testing grounds, and they finally find out where the stuff is coming from. And guess where it's coming from? The center of the earth. So they're actually mining it out of the ground. And you see this really like this big, it's like a lake of the stuff, and you see all these weird things like bubbling up, and it's really well done. I can't tell you about the effects more. They're so good, the practical effects in this movie. I just wish we saw even more of them than we do. So Mo, he sneaks on his outfit that he stole for one, like the factory worker outfit. He goes down there, and then we see the kid back in the tanker truck, and all of a sudden it starts filling up. So they're pumping it out into the tanker truck. So kid's freaking out, and Mo hears him in there, and he's like, "We're gonna get you out of here." So he ends up stealing the truck that the kid's in, takes off, and he tells the girl, okay, go off. I'm going to meet you down on this part of the highway. And then they end up meeting up with her, and she gets attacked by a guy too. She's waiting. She's in the pickup truck that they had used in an earlier scene. She ends up getting in that. She gets attacked. But thankfully Mo comes to the rescue and runs the guy over. And it's this great scene. I think his legs get run over and all the stuff starts coming out or something like that. Anyway, so they're driving in this big tanker truck now. It's Mo, his girlfriend, and then the kid who's they rescued out of the back. They get pulled over by a police officer, and this police officer is like, where are you guys going? Get out, put your hands on your head. And then they're like, because the stuff is actually leaking out of the back of the truck, and they're like, oh, that looks so good. Doesn't it, officer? Though I can't resist it. I have to go get some. The lady runs over and pretends to start eating it, and then the cop's like, oh, I got to get some for myself. So the cop runs over, and the cop starts eating this stuff. It's so ridiculous. And anyway, so the cop's now eating the stuff and whatnot too. So shortly after that, they take off. They get away from this police officer because the police officer is now too busy just eating the stuff. They end up driving the tanker away, and they go to this big castle. And basically, what it is this group of mercenaries. And I guess Mo knows them from somewhere. Maybe he was one of them at one point, and he's like, "We need your help. You realize what the government's been doing for years, right? Well, guess what? Now they're doing something way worse. They're poisoning people with this food." And anyways, he gets this big group of mercenaries to go to the factory, and these mercenaries take over the factory. They kill everybody. They shoot them. All the tanks start blowing up, and the employees inside have actually killed themselves. It's like a mass suicide, like some George Jones type shit, and it's just crazy. And then the big tanks full of the stuff blow up and goes everywhere. And they end up going to this broadcasting station after they blow up the factory. And he goes there, and all of a sudden Chocolate Chip Charlie shows up. So they're at this place. They're going to basically go on the radio and put out this broadcast to the world. You guys need to stop eating the stuff. It is poison. It is going to kill you. All of a sudden Chocolate Chip Charlie shows up. And guess what? Chocolate Chip Charlie meets his demise. Yes. I guess he consumed some of the stuff or whatnot. And it's probably the best practical effect in this whole film. All of a sudden his face starts shifting, and his fucking mouth is so wide, it's crazy, and it's a fantastic practical effect. Like I said, I think personally it's the best practical effect in this movie. All of them are good, but this is, I think, the standout moment as far as practical effects go. Great scene. So poor Chocolate Chip Charlie is gone now, unfortunately. Next thing you know, the stuff starts filling up in the radio room, and they burn it. They light it on fire. And eventually they finally get on air. They tell people to destroy it. If you have it in your house, bake it, throw it in the oven, get rid of it. This is poison. Stop eating it. And we basically see some scenes of just people in society destroying it. We see people on the streets in different various cities just like getting rid of it in the public, in the streets, destroying it. And anyways, then we come to the end now. So Mo goes back to the one of the distributors' place, the second one, not the one with the dog, but because he's dead now, but the other distributor. He goes back there with the kid, and this is so awesome. He's like, these corporate assholes, they have a new product that they're going to release, and it's not the stuff. Now it's the taste. They're like, this is not as bad. It doesn't have as much of the stuff in it. So now introducing the taste, and Mo comes in. And he pulls out a gun, holds him at gunpoint, and then the kid comes in, and you know what the kid does? He serves them the stuff, gives them a little bit of a taste of their own medicine. So basically, they end up eating it all, and that's basically where the movie ends. And then shortly after that, we see this random scene where you just see these guys, like these couple of thugs walking around town, and they open up this box, and there's the stuff in it, and the guy tastes it, and he's like, he nods his head, and that's the end of the film. So anyways, very entertaining film. Practical effects are very good. It's by no means like a great movie. God knows. I mean, some of the acting is pretty bad, but for a B movie, it's a better one. Larry Cohen's films are known, definitely have a charm to them, like Q, the Winged Serpent. And like I mentioned, the standout thing in this film is definitely the practical effects, which are done very, very well. So I definitely recommend the stuff. It's a unique film, and that's one thing of Larry Cohen. He does films like that. He does, films using things that you wouldn't expect to be used in a movie. And it's really cool. You know, who thought that there'd be a movie about killer yogurt? But Larry Cohen did that. So it's a very entertaining film, and I definitely recommend the stuff. So let me know what you think of this stuff. Have you watched it? Do you intend to watch it? I'd love to hear what you think about this movie. And I'd love to pick up the Blu-ray. Arrow Video released I believe a 2-disc set on Blu-ray a couple years back, and I'd love to pick that up at some point. But if you don't have the Blu-ray or DVD, you can definitely check it out. They have it on Tubi TV. And yeah, so thank you very much for watching my video. We'll see you next time, and until then, take care.